Is this thing on? Hello, I'm Mary, and this is the first video on this channel, so welcome. I decided, because I'm a writer, to put together a short list of things I have been told, writing advice I have heard, that in fact did not work for me. Just as a little disclaimer, I want to say these are all my own personal opinions. I'm not saying the advice itself is like horrendous or anything. If it works for you, good. Keep doing it. I'm glad you know what you like. But for me, they didn't work out very well, and I'll explain why with each of them. Is my posture terrible? Maybe I should sit back. What are my credentials, you ask? Well, say less. I have written 2 full-length novels in early stages. Well, the second one is in an early stage. It's a duology. The first one is almost finished. I have to make some tweaks, of course. Anyway, I have no official credentials. I'm not published, of course, if you care about that kind of thing. But I have still technically written 2 full-length books. And so, yeah, I have been writing for 5 years now. And writing, like, seriously, with the idea that I might actually be able to write a book. I have actually been literate and able to write since I was a child. So I've compiled a list of advice and tips that didn't work for me, and maybe they won't work for you. Here we go. Said is dead. The thing about this one is that it's been around forever. Everybody has heard it, and a lot of people have already come to the realization that it's not the best advice. I understand the sentiment. Obviously, we don't want to be uncreative or lazy in our work, and if we just use said all the time, and especially in instances where there is a better word available, you just have to find it, then we probably shouldn't use the word said. But of course, you should be using said, and in fact, in my own writing, I have come to realize that I use said more than any other dialogue tag. It might be a fun exercise to do like a short writing spurt where you try to use any word except for the word said. That could be a fun way to challenge yourself, to be more creative, to think differently than you usually do, to find synonyms for said that could be more appropriate. But obviously, it's not dead. You shouldn't just get rid of it. It's actually imperative to writing a smooth story. If every sentence of dialogue is dramatically tagged with some synonym for said that is supposed to evoke emotion, your reader is going to get exhausted trying to keep up. It's going to feel like being bounced between 2 ping pong paddles in a game of table tennis. So yes, said is actually my most used dialogue tag, closely followed by asked. It makes the instances in which I do need to use a synonym for said that is supposed to evoke a different emotion or a specific emotion more impactful because I use words like exclaimed or demanded or ordered or even stated sparingly. So yeah. The second piece of advice that I personally don't find very useful is something that might shock a lot of people. It's to write an outline. I personally don't write outlines. I never have, and I can't say I never will. I guess I do make outlines in the sense that once the story is already going, maybe halfway through, maybe I'm near the end, and I really need to just sort out and start finding the beats of the story, I will make an outline. But it's a rough outline, and I don't really stick to it. In fact, it tends to change many times before the end of the story, and I believe this is because I'm a pantser. If you don't know what a pantser is, basically somebody who writes off the cuff of their seat. They literally create the story as they go. I do that. I cannot, for the life of me, have the story set before I start writing because I develop the story as I write. That's how my brain works through it. But in fact, I do actually write from chapter 1 and forward quite often. But I just do it. I wing it. Literally, I wing it. I don't know what the next chapter is going to be about. I just make it up as I go. And so an outline doesn't really work for me personally. Not that an outline is bad, but it's just advice that didn't work for me. Yeah, so you're apparently not supposed to make edits to your draft as you write it, specifically your first draft. I don't do that. It's along the same lines of I need to write to know what to write, and in order to know what to write, I need to have a solid foundation of what I've already written. And so if I'm writing a story and I put an entire fight scene in brackets, that's hard for me to do because what if there's something in that fight scene that will help me create the next chapter? Or if I'm writing a sentence and it doesn't feel right, it's not going to springboard me into the next sentence as well as it could. And so I do go back and I make edits as I write my first draft. They say you're not supposed to do that because you could run the risk of deleting something that you might end up using later on, but I have a pretty good idea of what I want in my book and what I don't, and if it's not working, it's not working. And also, if you do tend to make edits and you have to delete something that you don't like, or that you think you might want, just save it to a deleted scenes folder. And I, in fact, don't find that it slows me down with writing. In fact, it speeds me up, because when I don't do that, I get stuck for forever, and then I get in a mental block, and then I go 2 months without writing, and then I feel bad about myself. Write every day. Again, I understand the sentiment, and I do believe that we should read every day, read something. I don't believe that you have to write every day. I do believe that practicing helps you get better at anything, and so if you're trying to simply get better at writing, practice writing, all sorts of stuff. Personally, I have always written when I've had the motivation. I have more free time than most people, and so when I do start to write, I write for hours at a time. It's easy for me to write every single day right now. The issue, though, with saying you need to write every day is that when you set a goal for yourself like that, if you miss a day, or if you miss 2 days, or if you miss a week, you can feel bad about yourself. And you think, well, I'm not writing as much as other authors are, or writers. I'm not meeting that standard, or you're being lazy, or whatever. And that can actually cause you to lose motivation. I know, because there have been times where I'm like trying to measure up to the people I see online, and I realize, but I feel like they're writing more than me, actually. I feel like they're more informed. I feel like they're more practiced. I need to do more. And then I push myself, and I end up writing things that I delete because they're not good. They're not inspired. And so I would say, if you have a goal, try to write, like if you have a goal to write however many words in a month, I think that's a much better goal than a daily goal, if that makes sense, because life hits you, you know? When you make a New Year's resolution to go to the gym every day, you don't stick to it because you need rest days. You need days where you can just step away from it. And so I feel like it's the same with writing. Yeah, so I don't think daily goals are good for me personally, because I have tried them and I feel like I fall short. And I don't like forcing my inspiration. And again, this might be because I'm a pantser. Yeah, so that doesn't work for me. And maybe it won't work for you. But maybe writing a daily goal does work for you. And finally, the last piece of advice that I find does not work for me is write what you like. And specifically, it's not that I think that this advice is bad. I just feel like it's incomplete. It's not a full sentence in my mind. Yes, you should write what you like, because otherwise there isn't going to be a passion there. But on the flip side, you also should write what your readers like, because otherwise you're not going to make sales. You're not going to sell your book. You're not going to find an agent who wants to publish your book. That's not to say if you purely write what you want, nobody will ever read it. I'm sure anything you write, you will find some freak out there who also wants to read it. But at the end of the day, you really have to keep in mind that if you want to be a published author, you're in an industry to make money. And if you want to make money, you're going to have to write what sells. So that means you're probably going to have to sacrifice some things, if not a lot of things, that you want to put in your story in order to have a marketable book. I'm sorry if my bangs are annoying anybody. I'm really trying to not make them look like two little antennas on my forehead. Of course, readers want romance and action and adventure and mystery and intrigue. Of course, readers want fae and love triangles and assassins. Readers probably want sadness and relatability, and maybe you want those things too. But above all, readers want a good story, and you do too. The truth is, to write a good story, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot. You're going to have to reorient yourself on what needs to go in your story in order for it to be a good story. Your readers, they don't really know what they want. They could pick up a book for a specific trope and leave, maybe not getting that trope fully satisfied, but feeling like that's one of the best books they've ever read because you subverted that trope to write a freaking good story. So that's my issue with this write what you like, write what the reader likes. Write a good story, focus on that, and everything else will fall in place. And even if it's different than what you envisioned, no matter what the story turns out to be, if it's a good story, you're going to be proud of it. If it's a good story, it doesn't matter what's in it. There are going to be readers out there who want to read it in mass. So focus on writing a good story and everything else will fall into place. Don't worry about what people want or don't want. Thank you for watching. Again, my name is Mary and it's been real. If you have any advice or things that didn't work for you or maybe did work for you, share them in the comments. I would love to read them. I would love to, find advice. Hopefully I'm here helping you, but maybe you can help me. And we can start a discussion in the comments to help better each other as writers. So thanks for watching. Happy January. Make your New Year's resolutions. Subscribe.